Good evening. In this signing period, we're very excited about the class that we bring into our UTSA family, getting a little more than half of them, 12 of the 23 signees that are allotted for us in this signing period was a big deal for us as we continue to push toward a February signing date where we'll conclude our signing class. But feel very good about the guys that we have already. We've taken care of some very important needs for our football team. Majority of these guys that have already signed today are guys that will be with us at the mid-years period, and we have some others that still may join us right after the January 11th signing period as well, or official visit weekend before we start our semester on January 14th. But all in all, a great group of young men for our football team, our university, and we're excited about them.
Frank, what are you most excited about in these 12 guys you just announced today?
Taking care of our needs. You know, you look at a quarterback room that with the departure of DJ Gillens, a guy that we were considering bringing back after a nasty injury for a possible 6-year medical, and the departure of Bryce Rivers, really needed to address a need in that room. And I thought we went out and got a guy with SEC experience who brings a maturity to our football team. I thought we were able to sign one of the better high school quarterbacks in stature and throwing ability and the ability to extend plays in Sutton Sapien. Both of those young men we think will be able to compete early on for us and give us opportunity to have quality depth at that position.
Hey, Coach, when you get two guys that they will say are cut from the mold, if you will, from Converse Judson, beyond the athleticism, what do you really get from guys that come from a program like that?
Yeah, winners. They're winners. They've won their entire life. They're young men that are part of our San Antonio fiber. It's important to us to do well in our city. When you look at the two young men, Sincere McCormick and Rashad Wisdom from Justin, and when you look at Oscar Cardenas from Brandeis, you're talking about three of the better players in the city of San Antonio, coupled with a young man who was a first-team freshman all-conference player, freshman all-American, and Spencer Burford from a year before, and even the year before that, and a young man named Frank Harris from Clemens High School. And I think it's very important for us to do a great job in our city as our outreach starts from inside out in recruiting the best players in the city of San Antonio and then beyond.
Coach, you mentioned the quarterback from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College coming in here. What did he show you during his time there that showed he deserved a spot at the division level here?
Well, I've known him since he was a freshman in high school, and so it was bigger than what he just did at Mississippi Gulf Coast. He was number 4, number 5 dual threat quarterback in America coming out of high school, and was in a heated recruiting battle with Clemson, Florida State, and you name who when he came out. I think he's a guy who has the mental capacity to have wherewithal to compete at a very high level. I think he's a very talented young man with arm talent, hand talent, and I think he gives you a body type that's able to sustain the rigors of a season. So excited to have Lowell.
Frank, I know when you recruit, you don't recruit for a certain kind, they could be polka dot, pink, blue, you don't care what color they are, what ethnicity, but Oscar Cardenas, I'm here to tell you there's some people on the south side of town and west side of town that are excited about this young guy for obvious reasons. We're in San Antonio. Can you just talk about his upside? Because I've seen that kid play, and I don't think he's even begun to scratch the surface of his potential.
Yeah, he has not. He comes from an athletic family, dad, uncles, sisters, mom, players, coaches. We went into the home for an in-home visit, and it was as if we were in a coaching convention. There wasn't a person in the household who wasn't a coach or player. And it's good to be able to get a coach's kid, somebody who understands and embraces doing hard things someone who understands the rigors of our sport and the demand of it and embrace it. And at the same time, is a quality student. Couldn't say enough good things about Oscar and what he brings to the table. He's a guy that can play attached on the line of scrimmage, a guy that can play detached and spread out, put him in a hip position, just a multitude of things you can do with him because of his versatility in both the passing game and run game. So I think he's a tremendous talent, and his upside is out the roof.
Frank, a majority of the signees were offense.
Yeah.
Just wondering if that's something you're looking to balance out in the second part of the signing period.
Yeah, well, you know, we look at our roster and we manage it very efficiently. And you look at the quantity at each position group and what you lose. And when you look at our offense or our defense, rather, you lose Kevin Strong, one at defensive line, Les Morrow at linebacker, and 2 safeties. So you lose 4 guys out of the 11, and everyone else returns in the 1 and 2 deep. And so the quality depth is pretty much there. We had some needs we need to fix in the secondary that I think we addressed, and hopefully we can probably add another 1 or 2 addition there. We have some needs at the linebacker position that we'll address here in short term. Just keeping in mind today was the first day of the signing period, with still time to go, even within this signing period, and of course the second in February. So we'll address those needs defensively, but for the most part, we have the number, the ideal number, which generally roll around 38 or so. At the defensive side, you know, and the 40-plus at offense, and then 3 to 4 to 5, give or take, at special teams. So when we look at our 85 total number, the greatest need right now, because of attrition, has come from our offensive side of the football. And those are areas that we needed to address and still need to address. We haven't met our number at the offensive line position at all. And we won't even get them all in this class. And some of that attrition has been by injury, young men who are still with us. When you talk about Zach Pear, Alex Snow, et cetera, that injury or what have you have shortened us at those position groups. And so gradually we'll make it up with each one of these classes, and that's where you'll see the parity of freshmen and junior college guys. So we're not so bottom heavy with a freshman group all stacked on top of each other, nor vice versa, so top heavy where all the guys are seniors and then you have to start over the next year with all these freshmen. And so it just happens to be a year where the greater need based on attrition has come from the offensive side. And so we'll address it accordingly year in and year out based on our need.
Coach, I wanted to ask, you know, every recruiting cycle is the same in a lot of ways. You go through the same thing that you do. Some things are the same every year, but I wanted to ask in regard to the kids that committed to you over the summer, how hard did you have to work to re-recruit those guys leading into the last few weeks? Yeah,
it was real, Jerry. It was real. And it went all the way until last night, and then yet again this morning. That it never stops. And so when they commit to us, it only puts, honestly, a target on them. And that incites, I guess, if you will, it's like blood in the water for sharks to go check him out, to evaluate him. And maybe they have something down there that we want. And they become even more appealing for colleges, and good for them because they are worthy football players. We try to do a very good job of early identification. This evening for us was spent doing 2021 guys yet again, and then tomorrow morning will be 2021 guys. And so we will aggressively identify those young men and continue the next phase, which is our evaluation phase before we get to our recruiting phase. But, you know, we've done a great job of identifying early on, and then the battle to hold on. And so we say to our staff, there's recruiting and then there's the fight. And with some of these guys like a Rashad Wisdom and Sincere McCormick and on, that fight continues into the night, you know, and, you know, and sometimes we take our losses. You know, we lost a young man to Cal that was committed to us in the midst of the fight in some of those schools. So I think the type of athlete that we're recruiting, we very well could have signed all 23 and been safe of guys that are potentials or developmental, but that's not just necessarily what our team needs right now. We need guys that are impact players, and so you aim high, high risk, high reward, and in the fray of that, you win some and you lose some. And our recruiting is no different than most across the country when you go after those caliber of players. And so, you know, we were able to nab some very quality student athletes. We lost some along the way, but we feel very confident that we'll win the battle at the end of the day in getting the right type of player that is the program type for us that will allow us to have probably even more immediate success or opportunity for these guys to get to the field than what we have in the past, where it's been a 2-year developmental cycle. They'll have to play now, and so their development right now was a part of our evaluation, or where they're at now.
Frank, on the other hand, on the positive side, are you heartened by? I talked to.
Why you said the positive side like that was negative? That's a good thing.
No, Sincere and Rashad.
Yeah.
I talked to them this morning, and I talked to Rashad last night, and he said he wasn't going to sign today. He's going to wait till February. And Sincere had told me the last time I was out there when it was in the playoffs, he said, I'm not signing in February.
They both did. That's accurate information.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I said, well, they're not going to sign. I said, well, then Sincere, yes, I heard he was going to sign today. Rashad never called me, and then today I was teasing him. I said, man, you should have let me know. He said, well, I decided real late. I said, well, I was up and stuff. But anyway, but long story short, I asked him. I mean, just to, you know, just brass tacks. I asked him, what was it like for you guys? I know you all had committed, but they had a hard time, injuries, what have you, for whatever reason. The season didn't quite turn out the way it, you know. And so how did it affect you guys? Just want to get your comment on their very steadfast in saying that didn't phase us. That never entered our. If anything, it just makes us more determined. We want to go in there. We want to help. We want to be part of that class that turns it around, and we want to get back to where. He said that never entered our mind about changing our mind because of the kind of season that we're having. He says because those you have ups and downs. That's going to happen.
Yeah, and so what happens within a season that you have tough times. It's when you coach your hardest, when you recruit at your very best, because it's so easy during that tough time to shy away from recruits like, oh my God, we just did not play well. That was ugly. Better not answer this phone call. We do the opposite. We embrace it. We call them. We get them on our campus, and we share with them all the reasons why, and share with them, you're the difference maker. You're the missing link. And when we get the very best on a continuous basis in the city of San Antonio, then we'll be good enough. You not coming doesn't help the cause. You coming helps the cause. And here's how you fit in this puzzle. And this is why you're so important to this puzzle. And when things look ugly, we dig deeper. And we reach out to that parent. We reach out to that high school coach. And we're transparent with them and what's going on with our program and where we're at. And we say to them, you're a shareholder in this. You're a part of this. And so I want you to know this is where we're at. This is what's going on. And so, because if you don't, then somebody else will represent your program for you. And we don't allow that. We don't let anybody misinterpret or speak on our behalf. We speak on our behalf very diligently in the state of our program. This is where we're at. This is what has happened. And here are the ways that we're going to rectify it. Here's how your son, here's how you are going to help affect that change. And so we've never wavered. We've never shied away from it. The good days or the bad days, we've embraced it and shared with these young men all the reasons why UTSA was the right place for them.
Coach, there was a report regarding offensive coordinator Al Borges no longer a part of the program. Can you provide some clarification on that? Is Al still on staff? Is he still your offensive coordinator?
He's still on staff. He's working at a different capacity right now. At another time, outside of recruiting day, I'd like to dedicate this day to our student athletes and the great achievement of our university. But I'll get with Kyle, and probably as early as Friday, we'll address that, and I'll be glad to indulge in where we're at in the state of that. But currently, right now, he's still a part of our staff.
Coach, I wanted to ask, Josiah has just got such a bright future.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are wondering, is that, are we going to get to see him another year here?
Yeah.
Or, because he's good enough, probably, we all know he's probably good enough to be at the next level next year. What is his thinking right now? Do you know what his status is?
Yeah, well, we've met with Josiah and his family, and we have been a resource for them to give them as much information as possible that they can make the best decision in the best interest of Josiah and his family. We're fully supportive in his decision, whatever it may be. But that's what we do. We groom them, we develop them, and we put them in position to be their very best. And then we reach out to the National Football League and its advisory council to give us advice or advisement on where projection may be at this time, where projection may be a year from now. And we have dialogue, and collectively as a family, UTSA family, along with Josiah and his family, share information and wait for a decision to be made. Josiah has not made that decision right now. They have information. They're still collecting information. We think the world of him. I certainly think he can play in the National Football League. But the interesting thing about that is you go to the National Football League when the National Football League say, we're ready for you. And we ready for you means you've maximized your draft potential in the spot that they perceive they will draft you in. And I think when he maximizes his draft potential, Josiah will exit and go to the NFL, whether that be this year or next year. But right now, it's just information that he and his family are collecting. And again, we're just trying to be a resource and help them make the best decision for he and his family.
Frank, I saw in the video you guys tweeted out that athletic director Lisa Campos was in your guys' war room this morning.
Yeah.
Recently, she sent out a letter of support following the season. Can you just talk about her role, y'all's relationship, and the support from the administration after a tough season?
Yeah, it's who she is. So whether it was this morning, we started phone calls at 6 a.m. this morning to wake our guys up. So arrival was 5-ish this morning, and like every one of our coaches, she was in the trenches with us, a part of the war room, a part of the conversations with student, athlete, and parent alike. And that's who she's been from the moment that she's gotten here, that have been super supportive of our program, of me personally. Could not ask for a more supportive, a more diligent athletic director that's standing shoulder to shoulder, back to back with myself and our staff. She's always around. We love her being around. And so there is no better way you could possibly have it when you have someone that's that supportive. I think it bodes well for our staff and players alike to see her involved. When we get ready to go fourth quarter this February, she's there now in the early mornings, and she takes the field with the team a time or two in a full sprint. But that's who we are, and we're committed to the cause of developing these young men, of preparing them currently and for life beyond football. And that is echoed from the very top by Taylor Amy and his support for this program and all that he has done to make athletics as a whole, football, the pillar of this university. So administration has been fantastic. My direct supervisor, Lisa Campos, has been fantastic. And the future continues to gleam bright and on an ascending road for UTSA football and athletics as a whole.
Frank, I know you've always relished stuff, even before you came here, you relished recruiting. You love the chase, the challenge of
The fight.
The fight. And just want to ask you just quickly, just the dynamics of the of signing day? Did you stay up? I know you used to stay up late. Did you stay in your office, or did you stay up? Or what was your routine that? And then also want to ask you, do you like, since it's the second year of this, since they implemented the early signing, how's that fitting in with your, and do you like it?
All right,
The early signing period?
first, I wanted to spend the night, but I have a director of football ops that stays on me and says things like, "You're going to burn out. You have to go home." And so I tried to stay. She made me go home, so I did not stay as tradition would be. But breakfast came in at 5:15. I'm sorry, 5. All right, my bad. I got it.
Did you fight her when you couldn't stay? Did you fight her, or did you just?
No, because these last 3 weeks have been a whirlwind, and so probably needed that time just to exhale for a moment, going city to city, state to state, nonstop. We're on the road Sunday through Friday, and then a recruiting weekend Friday and Saturday, and then back again for 3 weeks. And I get home to see my kids, and it's like, my son, who's not very mushy, would run up to me and hug me because he hadn't seen me in 5 days, 6 days, and then do it again. And so she was probably right, a much needed couple of hours to exhale before we got in the early mornings of today. The early signing period is certainly advantageous to us because it helps clear and identify those guys who are academically qualified right now. And so you have an understanding of who they are. It forces us to continue in our early identification process and evaluation process. Example, when we go out in January, there's a handful of guys that we need to complete for the class of 2019. But there's certain positions, quarterback, running back, et cetera, that we're done. There's other positions that need to be met. We'll take care of that responsibility. But for the most part, it will be a 2020 identification evaluation part, and then, or identification aspect of it, guys' names we've already had, guys we've watched on tape, and now we go start getting information. Therefore, when May come and it's the spring recruiting cycle, it's true evaluation opposed to identification like it used to be. All right, so if you sign in February, you go out in May, you're just finding those guys. Because of the early signing period, it allows us to finish a class still 2-3 weeks in January, and then when we go out in May, 2020 is already identified and it's more specific instead of a blanket coverage. We blanket San Antonio, so all 120-something schools we hit. But outside of that, we're more strategic and specific in our approach because of what we're able to get accomplished in January. So for that, it's certainly an advantage for us with the early signing period.
Frank, can you update us on Frank Harris's health, and will he be ready for contact in the spring?
To my knowledge, he's 100% cleared to be able to participate at the back end of the season from a rehabilitation standpoint. Jerry, when we would have our Monday morning meetings, I would speak on it, how he looked like he was back in form because of the freak athlete that he is. He would, but from a doctor's perspective, he had not officially been released. So therefore, all of what he did this fall was from a rehabilitation standpoint. He never practiced with the team. He rehabbed throughout this fall. And so we're excited. We're excited to have him back. We're excited that, the quarterbacks, Cordell, get him back, JoJo. And then the two signees are both mid-year enrollees. So they both will be here January 14th. So our entire quarterback room will have the ability to start transitioning and competing as early as this spring. Thank you guys so much.